Hi guys, a very good morning to all of you and I hope you all are safe. So again I am back to teach you Standard 3 Chapter 10 and the chapter name is Fire, Farming and the Wind. So today we will in this topic, like in lecture number 2, we will start the beginning of fire, second topic. But before starting that, we will see that what we have learned in the first videos, like the discovery of fire. So just take a short look at what we have learned. So that discovery of fire means how did early humans first came across the fire? So perhaps what they saw the dry leaves means the early humans, they saw the dry leaves and branches, it catching the fire in the forest. Like the other animals, they also afraid at first time with the fire. Then slowly they saw that fire could be useful to them. How it is useful? Because fire gave them heat and light. So early humans started using fire to keep themselves warm. Fire also kept wild animals warm away. Early humans accidentally discovered that the fire it can be used for cooking also. So that they just what they fell the piece of animal they put in the fire and then they got cooked. After that that food they tasted that and they found that this cooked meat was very easier to chew also and it is very tasty to the raw meat also. Then after they learned the art of cooking. And then afterward, the early humans, they used the fire to make their life more comfortable. In fact, we are not sure that how early humans learned to the fire, but perhaps they discovered the fires by striking the two stones against each other and sparks flew. And then after these sparks fell on dry leaves and what the fire caught. So that soon people they makes the fire by rubbing two stones together, and that was a very great discovery of the early humans. Till now we are using these discovery and it helps our work also easier. I hope that you guys understood the discovery of fire. Let's go through the second topic, beginning of fire, farming. Now, you have read earlier that early humans moved from place to place in search of food. So, in previous class that we have learned also that early humans is what for search of food they just move from one place to another. After that because the search of the food. So, they were hunted, gathered also. So for sometimes what they just hunted the gatherers also, and how did they become farmers? Then after that the early humans, how did they become the farmers? Now as hunter-gatherers wandered from one place to another, they noticed plants growing in the wild. So the hunter-gatherers, whatever who's the early humans are there, when they have wandered for the foods from one place to another, then they just saw that the plant is what it growing in the wild, means in the wild areas, where the lots of trees and these all are there. Then they noticed that the plant is growing in the wild. They knew that these plants gave seeds which could be eaten, and they knew that plant is very useful, and that plants gave the seeds for the wild animals, for us, so that it can be eaten. Perhaps they noticed that new plant grow where the seed fell. Then afterward they noticed that where the plant they grow the seeds, and they noticed that the new plants grew where the seeds of that plants fell down on the soil. So early humans may have tried dropping seeds on the soft ground. After that early humans they tried to drop that seeds of the plants on the soft ground. These seeds may have sprouted into new plants over time. over time. Then what they think that these seeds, maybe the sprouts will come after into the new plants after some time. This was a turning point in history for the first time. After that, what? That was the first turning point in the history. That was the first turning point, means the time when an important change took place. Turning point is what? When the time when an important changes take place. So farming is what? It takes the very important change in the history for the first time. How they discovered that farming, that we can grow the crops? When they are going to hunter-gatherers from place to place, and they went and they saw what? They saw that some plant is what? It growing in the wild. Then they knew that these new plants have the seeds and which is very eaten, and it is eaten for us. Then perhaps they notice also that the seeds, the new plants grew when that seed, the eaten seeds, it fell down on that area. So from there the new plants grow. So that the early human is also what? They just take that seeds and they just put that seeds into the soft ground. And then after the seeds is what? The seed is sprouted comes into a new plants over the time. Then that the farming is, this is the what? This is the very turning point in history. At the first time, for the first time, people could grow their own food. After that, what? The people is what? They started, because moving from one place to another, it takes time, and we feel very like tired also. So that's why what? The people, they started the crops where they lived. No need to go from one place to another. They just started growing their own plants. Historians believe that the first started in West Asia, means underline that. Historians, the people who know about the histories, so the historians, they believe that farming, it first started in West Asia. It first started in West Asia in an area called the Fertile Crescent. So the first farming, it is started in the West Asia in an area which is called the Fertile Crescent. You can see the down map is there also, 53, that places where farming first started, West Asia. That area is what? It's the Fertile and Crescent. About the Tigris and Euphrates we can see in the next classes when we will go in like 11-12 classes. But the West Asia, here is the first farming started to the early humans, and it is also called the Fertile Crescent. Next is, with the start of farming, people no longer need to move around in search of food. So after that, what? They started the farming, so that the early humans, the people, they do not need to move from one place to another in search of food, because they are growing their own crops in their areas. So no need to go from one place to another in search of food. Since crops needed a long time to grow, because we all know that for growing a crops and food, it takes a time. It takes a time to grow. It takes a long time to grow. So people had to settle down in the places where they had planted their crops. So that the people, what? They have to settle their house. That where they had settled their down in the places where they have planted their crops, where they have just planted that seeds of crops. So that there they have to settle down. No need to move from one place to another, because it takes the time. The crops needs the crops is what? It takes the time to grow in a seeds, to grow in a new plants. So that's why it takes a long time. So the people is what? They no need to go from one place to another for living. They just what? They just settled their houses in that areas where they have planted that crops. As groups of people started settling down in one places together. So groups of people is what? They started to settle down where they just places together where they have what? Where they have crops and where they have planted their crops. So the first villages came into being. So like that, what the first villages what? It came into that areas. So what? They first of all they crop that they just crops, they just grow their crops there, and the people is what, as a group, lots of people came and they started to join to it. They just started to leave that areas near, and then they started to use their own growing their own seeds. So first of all, after that, the first villages it came into that areas. Now the next topic, the next line, we will see in the next videos, means in tomorrow class. Till that, thank you and have a nice day, and please go through the chapter. It's very important in history topic. So it's better that once the online class will be over, then you can go to the chapter, and please once read, then you can read the next classes, next chapter also. Till that, thank you and have a nice day.